Every day, we're bombarded with health headlines, trending supplements, and conflicting wellness advice. So, how do you know what's fact and what's just the latest fad? Join holistic health and functional medicine experts Dustin Strong and Dr. Scott Vrzal as they break down today's biggest health topics, separating science from speculation and providing practical insights to help you make informed decisions about your health. This is Truth or Trend, the holistic breakdown.
Lily.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Truth or Trend. You know, 2025 is over. If you're still overweight, stop making excuses. You qualify for 3 months of GLP-1s. Get it here. Yeah, that's a text that a friend of mine sent me. Actually, 2 people have been getting texts from people trying to get them to take the GLP-1s. And we've talked about this, but the 3 of us have decided that we have to talk a little bit more about it because people are getting overwhelmed with nonsense. And that's what we're here to do, is to separate the nonsense from the truth and what's really going to happen. And as I just said earlier, Dr. Crippen is joining us. He lost a little baby weight, but he didn't use GLP-1. So welcome back. And we have a brand new star to the show, Lily.
Absolutely. This is, I am here with, I am on babysitting duty for the next little bit and happy to bring Lily on to the podcast here. And she is infinitely excited about the microphone and the slides we're going to check out. So happy to be making her debut.
Nice. Welcome, Lily.
Dr. Crippen, you're actually teaching a workshop, correct? Coming up pretty soon?
Yeah, I think, third week of August, we'll be going a little deeper on beyond the prescription, natural alternatives to GLP-1s, GLP-1 receptor agonist. So yeah, so we're doing that in Dallas. Pull up the date, but I think it's the third weekend in August.
That sounds about right. I think I tried to put it on my calendar so I could be there, but I can't be. And I mean, obviously, this is a conversation that we need to keep having. So what inspired you, Dr. V, to say, hey, let's talk about GLP again, even though we're all talking about it all the time, it seems.
Right.
What was the reason that we decided we need to do this one more time?
Well, yeah, because it's a hot subject, like you said. I mean, everybody, is doing them and questioning and wanting to know and just wanted to go from the angle of what they can do to naturally stimulate. I mean, we've talked about, the perils of taking GLPs and of the meds and themselves and so on two previous podcasts. Just kind of wanted to lean into a little bit more about GLP is something that the body produces on its own. So how can we facilitate that and actually make use of the information now that's available and capitalize on this beautiful hormone ultimately, right?
Absolutely.
Instead of pharmaceutically manipulating it, what can we learn from what is now available? I mean, GLP was not even known when, back in the horse and buggy ages when I went to chiro school.
Yeah.
So am I pulling up the slides? Are we ready to rock
Sure,
and roll?
I just want to mention real quick, though, I did find it, Dr. Crippen. You are going to be teaching a roundtable called From Tension to Clarity, Cracking the Code on Chronic Headaches Roundtable. Love it. So that's going to be in August 21st in Las Colinas, actually Irving, Texas. The Hilton
August 8th, August 6th, I'm at the Wave convention in Hayward.
All right.
I'm teaching at that big deal.
There should be no more headaches in the entire United States.
There we go.
Between the 3 of us.
Let's get the word out. For sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's Friday the 21st. Thanks, Dustin. And then Saturday the 22nd is pieces of what we'll talk about today.
So there's another event that you're teaching on the 22nd.
Yeah.
Wow.
Friday nights on headaches, which we have the man who literally wrote the book on headaches here with us. So that's so we have that, and then the GLP-1 will be Saturday the 21st, and also in Las Colinas, same place.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. See, all kinds of options for everybody, especially if you're local to North Texas or Hayward, California.
Hayward, yes.
Coming up.
NorCal.
Let's see some of these beautiful slides that you put together, though, for this.
Let's go. So GLPs, let's learn from what all the great information that's now available on this wonderful hormone, because it has value. And so let's kind of go over the process and how the hormone dance. I mean, we often talk about the female hormone dance and so on. It's a chart that looks much like this. Those of you that are driving, don't look at the chart, but we'll try to talk it through for the Spotify listeners and so on. But ultimately, when we eat, insulin goes high, right, and that's what causes the body to store and make use of the carbohydrates that we eat at that time. Yeah. And then the glucagon is higher when insulin goes down ultimately. And so it's kind of a dance. Glucagon is typically an adrenal made hormone. Insulin is a pancreas made hormone. And then we've got leptin in there. Leptin was before GLP was a thing. Leptin was kind of what we were looking at, and it tends to go along with insulin as far as a therapeutic modality. Leptin, my favorite story is that when they inject rats with leptin, the rats would basically overindulge until the point of death, literally. So it's very much a like, I'm not quite full, keep eating, and leptin, as a human being, we can cause leptin to go high by overeating. When we gorge and overindulge, then leptin goes high. And so then next time we need to, meet that need and continue to overindulge. So leptin is definitely a hormone that we want to modulate and reduce so that we don't keep making silly choices and overindulging. So certainly the recommendation, if that is an issue, if you have that type of a weight concern, in other words, consuming too many calories, the recommendation is stop when you're 70% full and quit overindulging. That will help balance out that leptin hormone so that you're not continually having to overindulge to get that I'm full, I'm satisfied experience. GLP has some of that where it slows down gastric emptying, as we've talked about in podcasts in the past. And Dr. Crippen certainly has some good insight to add there as we go through kind of the basics of GLP. And then it kind of parallels with that PYY is kind of another one that has had a little bit less press, but goes along with this whole peptide discussion about basically being happy with what we're eating and making healthier choices. That's kind of the beauty of what GLP medications do, is people start making better choices, when they're on them. So
Right.
what we wanted
The
to
food
talk
noise
about
goes down is what they say, right?
I know,
They
that's
don't
the
hear
big
that.
buzz term now.
Yeah. And why don't we define PYY real quick? But I want to say one thing. You said 70% full. I know that the Japanese ikigai, or no, it's not ikigai, it's the hari hashibu, is the fact that, they eat till they're 80% full, which has been historically used for a very long time. So 70 to 80% is not a bad rule.
Right.
But can we bring some definitions to PYY, Dr. Crippen, or anybody who's ready to jump in on that?
Yeah, I sure can. And I can read a definition, or I can share a slide, but happy to kind of start that. So PYY is a peptide tyrosine. So that's where the name comes from.
Tyrosine?
Peptide tyrosine.
Wow, interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a short 36 amino acid peptide released from the ileum and the colon, and it acts to reduce appetite, as Dr. V was saying. And when injected into the central nervous system, it's also anorexigenic, meaning it reduces appetite, which is one of the 4 key effects of GLP-1. And then the key foods that support it, and we'll get to that in a little bit, will be dietary fibers from fruit and veggies, whole grains, and anything that increases the transit of the intestinal chyme to the ileum, similar to GLP-1, which reduces satiety.
Can I just jump in and real quickly say, you said tyrosine, so I'm assuming tyrosine is twice in this 36 amino acid peptide chain, right? If they're saying it twice.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah.
I would assume so as well. I haven't looked at the chemical structure, but I would assume that's where it's come from.
But immediately what that hits my brain with is the lack of protein, of course, right?
Absolutely.
Getting those amino acids in there, because tyrosine, so competitive in the body, right? Conditionally essential amino acid. We need it for your thyroid hormones. You need it to make dopamine, right? You need it for the precursors for dopamine to get to norepinephrine. I mean, the demand for tyrosine is massive. And obviously, we don't want to put our body in a situation where it has to decide between PYY, dopamine, and thyroid hormone, right? Because there's not enough tyrosine to go around. So
Right.
that's why, I mean, I just had a call last week with a doctor that we were able to get her off of thyroid medications and everything. But the biggest piece that she keeps sliding back on is not getting enough protein. As soon as she gets back on protofood, which is just straight up amino acids, her life balances right back out. It's amazing how that one piece, if I were to choose one thing to focus on for people, is so critical that we can't overstep that. Sorry to interrupt. We keep going.
No, I was going to say, Dustin, I pulled up the answer to that. Yeah, it has a tyrosine represented by the letter Y at its both carboxyl and amino ends. Anyway, a little technical,
Wow.
but at least two tyrosines in there at two important points where it gets the name from.
Wow. See, and now, we've got all these supplements out there that are glycine. Oh, you need glycine. Everybody needs glycine, or taurine. Oh, you got to have taurine, right? I'm surprised there aren't just tyrosine supplements yet because it's so freaking needed. But I wouldn't do that personally.
Well, and your point, I mean, dopamine really almost parallels, right? That what we're talking about with the PYY. It's almost the same mental emotional benefit. And they're both very, as we're now discussing, both very tyrosine dependent. That's huge.
Yeah.
So, yeah, do you have more on that, Dr. Jeff?
Yeah, just the final thing. I just pulled up 5 total tyrosines of the 36 amino acids. So it's
Wow.
roughly 1/7 tyrosine.
Wow.
And that's the final thing. I'll pass it back to you, Dr. V, but just to put a bow on what Dustin asked there.
Yeah, great point. So yeah, I mean that's why these GLPs affect this PYY and glucagon-like protein, because that's keeping people happy and helps them make better choices. And so that's what we're talking about on this podcast ultimately, right? Is eating these foods is going to help you make better choices, feel better, feel more on your game all the way through the day without all the side effects of adding synthetic hormones. Ultimately, the peptides, they change the names a little bit, right? Which technically they are, but the effect and the function of them is a compromise. So we want to learn from what big pharma is manipulating, because there is some definite value to manipulating, if you will, these hormones naturally to be our best, our best version of ourselves. So we've got, if you can see the chart, we've got the glucagon goes high, when we haven't eaten, it says, hey, we need to eat. And then insulin goes up when we eat. PYY rises right along, almost parallel with insulin. And then leptin gradually comes up saying, okay, we're full as we've been eating. And then everything balances. We like balance, and dopamine is a big player in here too. And that's the brain communicating. So, it's kind of the dance. Again, it's a hormonal dance that tells us that life is okay. And when, again, I think I mentioned it, but when insulin goes up, 40% of that meal gets stored as fat. So certainly balancing that, and insulin, we want to balance that by eating protein and fat. So it's the same discussion that we're having on, it's the same dietary choices that are going to stabilize glucagon and this whole dance.
We're going to get into a lot of foods early. Oh, there it is. I know that we're going to break down some actual products, right? At the end of this, different options of bone broths that people are using.
Yes, yes, exactly. So we had foods. I mean, it's the recurring theme on the Truth or Trend podcast, right? We keep talking about more protein, more good quality fats, and the EFA index and all the other, the omega index, and trying to get that balanced out. I mean, I was over the weekend traveling and seeing family. This family member eats no fish, is opposed to it, and doesn't eat avocado, and with all the hormone issues and bloating and things going on, I mean, just had her doing tablespoons of omega-3s at this point to just start skewing the omega ratios for her to stabilize some of it. So we have a lot of good foods. Prebiotic fiber is a biggie. So that's basically eating your vegetables, and from a prebiotic fiber perspective, I like one of the ways I get these is to blend veggies into my smoothies. One meal a day, especially during the week, is a smoothie, a protein shake for me. So I blend those smoothies in, blend the veggies in there, because they're very beneficial at helping to make these short chain fatty acids and ultimately butyrate, which is the nourishment, the building blocks for probiotics. And so that, and as well as healing up the intestinal lining. So good value and benefit there. Do you guys have other things you wanted to add on the butyrate front?
Not specifically on butyrate, but I just think that, yeah, diversity of fiber, the more options that people can get fiber into their diets, the better. One of the reasons, and not to make this always sound like a commercial for any supplements or anything like that, but the children's pro symbiotic product with that new ancient oat that's in there, because of the fiber content is so awesome. So I'm always trying to find ways to sneak more fiber into people's lives, because I do find that they're grossly deficient on that essential piece. And how are you going to make butyrate without it, right? And that's a longer conversation, but I'm in agreement with that. I see Dr. Jeff shaking his head. I feel like he's got something sage to add to that.
No, I was going to, yeah, no, I always hope so, but I'm often let down by that thought, Dustin. But no, I was just going to say that sounds great, and you kind of have that 30 different plant per week at the bottom. Dr. V kind of hitting on that, and it's kind of what you were saying, Dustin, not just the quantity of fiber, which certainly matters, right? But also the diversity of fiber feeds the different strains of bacteria, which is, key point you guys were both hitting that it makes sense to me.
30 different plants per week. Now I like that. That's a new goal, because everybody gets into a food rut, right? You start to say, oh yeah, well, I'm eating my blueberries and my raspberries every day, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's two.
Right.
Wow. Okay. I think I'm going to change my my intake questionnaire to ask him, like, how many different sources of fiber per week do you think you're getting? That'll change the game right there. For sure.
Yeah, because it's easy to say, yeah, I eat vegetables. I eat lettuce on my burger.
Yeah.
Right. And so, as just to reiterate the point you both are making, diversity of fiber, because realize that each fiber functionally feeds a different probiotic. It feeds a different strain, and we're going to get to that. But each probiotic has a very different function in the body. So diversity is huge. So 30 different vegetables through your week or 30 different plant foods through your week is a great goal to keep diversity in there. So everything we eat feeds different gut bacteria. So, taking a probiotic is one thing, but are you going to sustain that probiotic, right?
Right.
So that's where the diversity comes. And some of what I've done early on in this is, as I muscle test patients, when they need, a certain strain or probiotic or something, then I will try to muscle test what food is going to best feed that, determine what vegetable or, what nutrient they're deficient in their normal daily, weekly diet to sustain the proper functioning of these. Because it's kind of like taking probiotic and then taking an antibiotic, right? Or if you're not sustaining the fuel, then it's going to be short lived. So we want to get those lifetime benefits to stabilize the food noise is kind of the buzz term, but the yo-yo that would go along with hunger and satiety. So polyphenols comes from all those like veggies and fruits. The dark dark fruits, berries, dark chocolate, if you can find it without metals in it, right, Dustin?
Yeah.
Green tea is a good source in here. For the ECGC, we've got pomegranate, grapes, extra virgin olive oil, always a great addition to the diet. Good clean olive oil. Then we've got the amino acids and the proteins. Get them from fish, because that's our good omega-3s as well. Fish, I've been calling brain food. We had people over at our house yesterday, and I was actually handing out sardines and have some brain food. You're at the Vrzal house.
Yeah. I had them every day this weekend. No lies. You got to get some. There are good tasting ones out there, by the way, you can find. I want to add to that, just to kind of go deeper on that omega-3 real quick. Rhonda Patrick, I'm sure you guys have heard of her. She talks a lot. She was just presenting data on how if there's one thing that slows aging more than anything else, she's like, omega-3, omega-3, omega-3. From her perspective, and I agree with her, it's a huge missing opportunity for everybody. So yeah, wherever you can get them in, sardines or where else, I'm going to give you support on that for sure.
Yeah, vanity. It helps the skin, right? The hair. It's the building blocks for all the hormones. It's anti-inflammatory, stabilizes blood sugar. So ultimately, the omega-3s, carbohydrates cause the biggest, most sharp rise in insulin. Then we've got, starches a little bit slower, veggies, and, just again, starches a little bit slower, protein a little bit slower, and then omega-3s or good fats are even slower. In other words, we get about 6 hours worth of energy, 4 to 6 hours of energy out of an omega-3 versus a, simple carbohydrate that's going to, rise and fall. And then when it rises too fast and the blood sugar dips below the line, if you will, the satiety line, and that's when we get crazy and ADD-ish, and the brain gets starved. So eating these omega-3s in every meal will help stabilize that response. We've got some slides on bone broth as well. Bone broth, especially when we're talking butyrate and so on, bone broth is brilliant at healing that, keeping that intestinal lining healthy, so we're not so prone to be overreactive to everything in the environment. When that intestinal lining is compromised, then we have a weakened immune system, and we tend to react to things because they slip through, if you will, the intestinal lining, get into the bloodstream, trigger an immune reaction. So if we can, create some, I guess, look at the intestinal lining as bones. If we get them healthy like bones and strong, then we're going to have a more resilient immune system. Dustin's chomping at the bit to share something there.
No, I'm with you, man. I can't wait to get to the bone broth conversation, because I'm just thinking in takeaways for the average person listening, right? What are they going to remember after this? Obviously, diversity of fiber, trying to build in habits that incorporate these walnuts and olives and everything, just like you and I do every day.
Right.
But the bone broth question is a big one, because there's a lot of concern over that. And I know you've got a slide that breaks down all three. So I want people who are listening to hang in there. We're going to answer some really specific bone broth questions.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing, if I could jump in there, the key thing, what we're saying here, these are the foods that naturally support GLP-1 production. Means this isn't something you need a pharmaceutical to make. And in fact, your body makes it every meal, every time you're eating one of these prebiotic fibers, polyphenol rich foods, protein, amino acids, healthy fats, and fermented foods, which is, even with a really refined diet, it's hard not for that to be some of that in every meal, right? So this is something we're always making. The difference is when your body makes it, it has a half-life between 1.5 and 5 minutes. And when you take it as an injection, it has a half-life of about 7 days. So a lot of the side effects we're seeing with the GLP-1s is it's an artificial stimulation of the body. And then what's supposed to be there for 90 to 300 seconds is there for, 100 to 200 hours.
Jeez.
Right. And that's where we see a lot of the side effects from. And just one thing so the question I pose when I teach on this is, could we see some problems from the continuous activation of the GLP-1? Something that's supposed to be activated for 5 minutes is instead activated nonstop for months. Could that lead to some of the side effects? And there's one thing I'll share. This was published in August of last year, and I think Obesity Reviews. But they basically said discontinuation of GLP-1 treatment leads to weight regain, regardless of lifestyle interventions, and therefore should be considered a chronic therapy to prevent weight regain and associated undesirable outcomes related to obesity. What this research paper was saying is basically you can't stop them, which is quite unfortunate. And patients in that study regained somewhere between 60 and 160% of their lost weight.
160%.
Yeah, which is
question that.
Yeah, exactly. So they lost all of it to even gain 60% more than they were when they started. So for the listeners, I think the take-home message of one thing I really want to underline is we have the ability to do this naturally. And you've got on this slide a beautiful representation of the types of foods we can incorporate in our diet to do just that.
Yeah.
So, your point is great that, yes, we make this and it's a very valuable, very beneficial hormone, but we need consistency. We need to keep supporting the system, because the half-life is not a week. It's, it's seconds, presumably. But again, also to continue on with what you're saying, the GLP benefits of our naturally endogenous, our self-made glucagon-like protein is that it reduces appetite and cravings, right? It improves insulin sensitivity. To make the point about how this could potentially compromise, what we do know about, chronic exposure to insulin is that the cells start turning down their receptivity to it, right? And we start getting less sensitive to it. And that's a whole, cravings and all kinds of problems that ultimately leads to diabetes and the need for insulin because we don't use it properly. So we're looking very realistically at that same sort of scenario with these GLPs, but they support healthy weight loss when we do it properly and through diet and lifestyle. Uh, and then it slows gastric emptying so that we stay satisfied, meaning that the food doesn't go through the stomach as fast, so we get more value out of it and we're satisfied longer. And then it improves mood and energy, and it protects the heart and the metabolic health. Naturally, if we're eating properly, and we're going to live longer and have a better health span. It's not just about lifespan, it's about health span and having quality to those years ultimately.
Well, and I would add that, if you just follow what you're saying here, right? If you're eating like this and your only goal is to get your GLP-1 up, you're going to get thousands of side benefits, right? Your body is going to get so much healthier in so many ways that we couldn't even go over all of that. I mean, I'm looking at the kimchi and the sauerkraut and the kefir you got down there. That's next week's episode, spermidine, right? You're getting you're getting so much more when you're eating these foods than just taking a shot, as Dr. Crippen just said. Yeah.
Right. Yes. And even, there's good sources of yogurt. I mean, a lot of people are dairy sensitive. You're going to do a little bit better on a goat yogurt or a sheep-based yogurt. The goat protein, it more closely mimics the human breast milk from a protein structure. So great options there as well. So yeah, lots of good healthy choices as far as the foods go, and stay tuned. We talk about most of these foods on just about every Truth or Trend podcast because it is sustenance. That's how we have a good healthy quality health span is kind of the other buzz term these days. We want quality to our years, not just quantity to our years, because quantity is no good if we're in a, hospital bed for 20 years,
Nope.
or barely function or can't play with the kids and the grandkids. But if we can still be vibrant for all those years, that starts with these choices, daily choices, ultimately.
Right. Dr. Crippen, he mentioned goat's milk. Is that going to be something that Lily's going to be experiencing in her future? I know my brother used to drive a half hour just to go get some goat milk for his babies when they were young. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's something that's possible. Right now, she is 11 and a half months and still 100% breast milk
Hey,
in terms of the milk of choice. So the more we can get from that, the better. But luckily, we looked at it a little bit. We had to work through a couple things around supply and getting started. So at that point, that would have been an option we probably would have gone for, as a homemade goat's milk formula was kind of the backup option. But thankfully, we've been able
breast milk, so you're doing all right.
Yeah, exactly. Straight. We'll have a glass of the house white is the shirt I got for Lily, and then I got one other that says breast milk, nature's original fast food. So both of those, she's got two onesies where she can wear both of those.
My grandson is raised most at this point is predominantly on goat's milk, and it's thriving. He's doing great. So
awesome.
Yes, it's a good thing. And there's goat's milk formula for those that have had trouble making breast milk. There's goats. There's on the what is that website, right? There's
Weston A. Price.
Yeah,
Weston A. Price has a goat's milk formula. Yeah,
exactly. So good options. So back to probiotic supplements that may support the GLP probiotics. Again, there's probiotic strains that are specifically related. Akkermansia, we've done a whole podcast on. Reuteri, L. reuteri, we've done a whole podcast on. So these are some of the strains that are known to support production, natural, endogenous, self-made production of the glucagon-like protein, GLP. And fiber, we've talked a lot about. So keep the fiber in your regular diet. Collagen, we're about to discuss, and glutamine is in bone broth. Then we've got magnesium. We talk, ad nauseum about magnesium and the need, and yeah, what is it? The most commonly deficient mineral, and 70% of the body's pathways require it. Zinc got a lot of press, right, during during COVID, because that goes deficient when virus with a lot of different viruses, and sugar leaches zinc. So these are, rebuilding these pathways, taking the good omegas, will help us make our own GLP. So we don't have to
Now I
downregulate
noticed that under the
pathways.
magnesium it said glycinate or citrate. I mean, those are good forms, but obviously we want a whole food form of magnesium. Correct.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for that clarification.
No
Yep.
worries.
Mhm.
I saw another beautiful slide. There we go.
So very colorful, very nice. This is going into all the different strains, specific strains of probiotics that can help with this. In fact, I was listening to a book on cancer right now, and he's getting into some of the KCI and its exposure, its help as an anti-cancer strain. We've got Akkermansia. We've talked a lot about. That's got nice benefits to increase GLP, but improve insulin sensitivity, support weight management, and healthy gut barrier. Akkermansia is a supplement you can buy specifically by itself at Dustin's office.
Support it with pomegranate, right? You got to
Ah,
get that in there to have the variety of food.
there it is, some fiber, huh?
Mhm.
So L-reuteri, the love probiotic, the bonding hormone. Lily's getting all kinds of L-reuteri, right?
Mhm.
Naturally, just on that, naturally supports pitocin and oxytocin production. So it's one of the things specifically to recommend, or one of the things I think about, when a woman hits 7, 8 months of pregnancy, looking for that, cascade of. I know you've talked about pituitrophin being a great thing, Dr. V, to kind of induce kind of that pregnancy cascade. L-reuteri is a key bacteria that supports oxytocin production. So so anyway, since you brought up Lily, that's that's the one trigger I thought of, that is this the connection for women, especially as they get close to giving birth, among many others.
Brilliant.
Well,
Brilliant.
there it is. Your time for being on this podcast was just or not you, Jeff, but the listener just got even more
Yeah.
value out of this their time listening to this podcast. That's huge. So we want healthy babies. It's a great way to I was going to say build the practice, right? Creating healthy
Dr.
babies.
V's number one practice management trick: help your patients have healthy babies
and stay alive.
and stay alive. Keep them alive and keep them procreating. Vrzal chiropractic.
Yes, indeed.
Well, we're going to get much deeper into the microbiome when we're going to have Shalice Irby back to go through the Tiny Health gut health test, which is mind blowing. We had a little sample of that with her earlier, but yeah, we're going to go much deeper into this in a few episodes in the future. So I'm pretty excited about that.
So lots of great bacteria that ultimately it comes down to healthy fibers, diversity of fibers, because that is what supports all these probiotics. Again, we can take a probiotic, but if there's no food for those probiotics to feed off of, then it's kind of a moot point, or it's a useless pursuit, waste of money, if you will.
Mhm.
So we want greater satiety. In other words, be content with what we have, and that comes by eating properly. Then we don't have the yo-yos. When you eat the packaged carbohydrate laden foods, that we got the up and down and all the crazy cravings, and then you have to count calories because it's so easy to overeat and so on. When you eat the protein and the good fats and the fiber with your meals, you're stabilizing this GLP, this glucagon-like protein, so that you're happy, you're content with life, and you're lean, and a lean, mean fighting machine, right? So we've got the power trio of Akkermansia, of Bifidobacterium, and Clostridium butyricum. Those are the heavy ones to target the mucus bilayer, mucus layer, gut barrier, and butyrate production for maximum GLP impact. So that's ultimately what we're after, is stabilizing this. And it parallels again, with PYY and leptin and insulin, all these hormones that really change the way we feel through the day. It keeps us stable so that we don't need coffee at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and, another pick me up, another sugary snack and so on. So again, another way to support that and support GLP production is bone broth, a very good way to do this. I got more into bone broth recently. I had a patient that was healthy, but her skin looked fairly aged and probably 5 years ahead. And I thought for sure she was doing some sort of cheater, if you will, peptides. I thought she was doing peptides for her skin and so on, because the next time I'd seen her, her skin looked 5 years younger at least. And when I questioned her, she just had implemented bone broth daily into her diet.
Wow.
And it was transformational in the way her skin looks. So
Wow.
it was a beautiful thing. And again, here's nature's way to boost GLP naturally is through bone broth. So bone broth heals the gut lining. It nourishes the L cells that make the GLP in the gut. It's rich in glycine and proline, building blocks. Deficiency of glycine is often snoring, right? Because it causes the relaxation of the soft palate up there. So if you snore, then another sign potentially that bone broth could be a benefit for you.
We had talked about the PYY being really tyrosine heavy.
Yes.
I wouldn't say that bone broth is a high source of tyrosine, but it is a great source also of phenylalanine, which is one you didn't mention there. Phenylalanine is what tyrosine can use to become tyrosine, right? Your body can make tyrosine from phenylalanine. So I just want to just kind of throw that out there to make sure if somebody's going, oh, I thought we needed tyrosine and bone broth doesn't have it. Well, it does have a lot of phenylalanine, which is your body can use that to make tyrosine. Sorry to jump the gun there on that, but
yeah, no, I was just going to try to see if one of the different bone broths had some of the tyrosine listed in it, but it does not. So,
but phenylalanine for sure, which is what you need, which is the essential one that your body can use to make the conditionally essential tyrosine.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So still more plug for bone broths is what you're saying.
There you go. Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's covering bases, more than what is written right there.
Okay. That's a good point there. And bone broth improves digestion, right? It supports hydrochloric acid production, glycine, glutamine that supports stomach acid production and nutrient breakdown. Key triggers, again, for GLP release. And it stabilizes blood sugar by supporting glucose levels and insulin sensitivity. Bone broth creates metabolic environment that enhances GLP production. And again, when we stabilize insulin and glucagon, that's happiness through the day. That's contentment. That's staying on your game all the way through your work day and your life. So bone broth has collagen and gelatin, which is great for the skin and the hair and so on. And we've glycine, as we've talked about, proline, glutamine. Again, all these are really key nutrients to help keep a good, healthy intestinal lining. So the chemically sensitive person, a lot of food sensitivities and so on, bone broth is going to be a really good place to start. If you have blood sugar yo-yos and cravings through the day or energy yo-yos, again, bone broth is another great thing to add to your regular diet.
All right, I'm sold, Dr. V. I'm sold, man. I'm doing this like once a week, but now I'm going to probably put it in my daily thing. But what bone broth is the question we should answer everybody, right? Because not all bone broths are created equal. If you can't make your own, which ones are you guys using, Dr. Crippen? Because I remember I did a deep dive in this a while back before I chose what I'm taking in the office, but I want to know what you guys have discovered since.
Yeah, I should have had that up here with me. Dr. Crippen, do you have one? Do you have a favorite?
I think you've got a slide on it, don't you, coming up?
Oh, yeah. Well, I have the different bones that are there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but a small cup is big impact. Yeah, we got digestive health, radiant skin, leaky gut support. So many people have leaky gut. The muscle that gets weak with leaky gut is that vastus lateralis. In other words, the muscle on the outside of the quad that supports the knee patellar tracking. So very common place for people to demonstrate physical weakness and signs, knee pain associated with the leaky gut. Speaking of knees, Mr. Dustin, maybe increasing your
my knees almost 100%, by the way. I told you.
Maybe
no
maybe
surgery.
maybe if you do bone broth daily, it'll be 100%, huh?
Yeah.
It's an easy fix, and so many other benefits, right? And immune support, right? Because we've got zinc and magnesium, all these minerals and things to support the immune system. So bone broth is your new best friend. We've got beef bone broth. Yes, there's some issue. You all know that I'm a big fan of the blood type diet and the way that those affect the immune system. So if you're an A blood type, I would consider marine or poultry-based bone broth from that perspective, because it can trip up the immune system. For most of the other blood types, beef is good. Beef has collagen type 1 and 2, whereas the poultry bone broth has collagen type 2. Marine bone broth, there's some decent brands of the marine broth that works well for A blood types. Again, these are so we've got the choices are beef, poultry, or marine. Again, this is basically made from soaking the bones ultimately, right?
Yeah.
Over
I've
the
never
long
tried
haul.
marine. Have you guys tried marine bone broth yet?
I think Premier makes a powdered version of it that's pretty decent.
Okay. Okay.
Or it's marine collagen. So yeah, that works. You can make your own, but it's quite time consuming.
Yeah.
I'm a B blood type, so lamb is my superfood. So when I do lamb, I tend to soak the bones, overnight in warm water. Throw some lemon, a little bit of vinegar just to stimulate the reaction, and it works great. It's a good way to go. So were you asking about brands? Did you want to?
Yeah, I wasn't sure
Yeah.
which brands you guys. I mean, we could. I mean, because we don't want to like endorse somebody necessarily, but I'm just curious because I know
Right.
people want to vet that. Because there's a lot of them out there.
There is a lot out there. Dr. Jeff, you have a brand you like?
Yeah, I'll tell you, about 80% of the time we're making it kind of in a slow cooker, is kind of what I'm
Nice.
doing. I have
Mhm.
mentioned, I haven't done a deep dive into it, but I've mentioned Kettle and Fire, and sometimes we'll pick up the one from Trader Joe's when we're there as well. But I haven't deep dived it, so I'd be curious what you guys have found as well.
Kettle and Fire, you
Yeah.
felt good with though. You felt comfortable with that one. I don't recall what my complete analysis on that one was. I got to go back.
Yeah,
Keep
I haven't,
talking.
I
I will
haven't,
be right back.
yeah, I haven't muscle tested it or gone deep on it. Like I said, about 80% is what we get, but the other ones, I probably have felt good, but I haven't used it extensively or a lot. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well,
Which one?
convenience is a big deal for people too, right? Some of those powders that you can just carry, you can travel with, and heat up
Yeah.
some water and mix them up with some salt. They seem to work really well for
Yeah.
myself and for people I worked with.
Awesome. Which ones have you used?
Yeah, I'd have to go look. I can't remember the name
Okay.
of it,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
It's in my
I was gonna
kitchen
say
here.
the other thing I was going to say about knees, when we talk about knees and collagen, or knees and bone broth, one of the things I think I looked at is the whole food source of glucosamine
Mm,
is bone broth.
mm,
So glucosamine is a great product for knee health and I can
yeah.
specifically osteoarthritis of the knee, but bone broth was the whole food source of glucosamine. So just another reason
Good to know. I
to take
pounded
it
through a
for.
whole bottle of glucosamine synergy in the last couple of months. So,
Okay. Yeah, this is your whole food source that can work
okay.
synergistically with that.
Okay. Good.
I sprinted downstairs to grab a couple of options.
Nice.
Okay.
So there is a beef version, the
Roto.
Brodo.
Okay.
Just one that was grass-fed, grass-finished that I found, organic beef bone broth. Whew. I sprinted up the stairs, could catch my breath. And then they have a chicken bone broth as well.
Okay. Roto.
So
Okay.
that
So
was
check
a
those
fairly
out.
clean one, pleasant, decent tasting. I've just kind of been in the habit recently of just drinking one of those daily with my supplements, ultimately. Or sometimes I've been using it even to down real quick as I'm going through my workday as a kind of a snack mid-cycle. So it's good, again, blood sugar stabilizer. It gets that GLP production in the body, which again is satiety, contentness, happiness, keep us on our game. So
Keep you able to
again,
sprint up and down stairs as many
that's
times as you want.
right. We're measuring how fast my heart rate recovers, right? It's a test. Yeah. So that's a brand that, as I've searched the internet just for personal consumption, we have no plug, no association with the company yet.
Right.
But yeah, it's a good option. So yeah,
Nice.
good options out there. Bone broth is a good way. Eating your fish, eating your avocado, right? Your diversity, 30 plus plants per week, right? Keeping the diversity in the diet. These are all great ways to support your natural GLP production, which physiologically means better weight and weight management, if you will. And again, it's about satiety. Yes, there's the aesthetic aspect and the physical aspects of weight, and again, just to get on the soapbox for a second. Everybody says that obesity is the cause of, disease X, Y, and Z, but it's the choices that cause obesity that causes disease X, Y, and Z.
Right. Right.
So, it's obesity is a symptom, it's not a cause, but making these lifestyle choices supports natural weight so that we can run up and down the stairs, so that we can function, we can have the energy when we need it, we can have a good quality sleep, get through our day in a good, happy, content, stable way. So I guess I keep going back to the satiety and the contentness because society's such a bunch of dopamine hit, we're all,
Yeah.
so other things to kind of start wrapping this up.
Yeah, it looks like Dr. Jeff, we got like 2 minutes left for you, right? And you got to run. So any last thoughts for everybody on this topic?
Yeah. I mean, probably my last thought, if you go back a couple slides, Dr. V, when you were looking at that dietary triggers for GLP-1, right? That's basically variations of all of that is a healthy diet, right?
Yeah.
We go rich
Sure.
in fiber, rich in protein, rich in fat, fermented foods, and then polyphenol rich foods. I mean, yeah, like you started to say it, Dustin, or I think you did say it about there's nothing but side benefits. There's no side effects of that, just side benefits,
Mhm.
right? And every healthy diet is some variation of those 5 themes. Right.
Totally.
So, I mean,
Right,
what it
right.
tells us is we can focus on GLP-1s or just focus on what we naturally know we need to eat well, and we'll get the GLP-1 as a beautiful side effect of that. So I'll end on that thought.
Beautiful.
It's a good way to end it. And I was going to say maybe this is our next book is the GLP diet, right?
Yeah.
But actually, it's been done. I think Mercola already wrote it. So,
Oh,
Well, it's just
So-
confirming for everybody out there who's been making good
I
choices
gotta bounce real
and
quick, guys.
just making sure. Thanks, Dr. Crippen, for joining us.
Thanks.
Awesome. Great to be here. Thanks.
All right. So there we go. Eat your diversity of foods, your probiotics, prebiotics, protein, healthy fats, and fermented foods, and you will live long and prosper. Right?
right.
There's the
And
summary.
And you may get some spermidine in there as well, which we'll talk about in our next episode next week. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Beautiful. All
Keep the
right.
comments coming and the
Bless.
questions. We're happy to keep the conversation going with you. Have a good one.